There is a version of you that almost nobody has ever encountered. Not your parents, not your closest companions, not even the face looking back at you from the mirror. He never burns energy justifying himself. He does not hunt for approval or wrestle with every opinion thrown in his direction. He carries himself with a quiet certainty that makes even the loudest people in the room feel oddly powerless. And yet every single day, you drift further from becoming that man. Not because you are weak, and not because you lack discipline, but because modern life has trained you to expose everything long before it has had the chance to become real. You announce your goals before you've earned them. You defend your choices before anyone has even questioned them. You burn your strength trying to prove yourself instead of quietly building yourself. Picture a cup filled all the way to the rim with water. Every needless argument, every emotional outburst, every explanation offered to someone who never intended to understand you spills a little more of that water onto the floor. At first, the loss is invisible, but years later, when life finally demands everything you have, you find that the cup which should have been overflowing is nearly dry, and you can't even remember where it all went. More than 2,000 years ago, the Stoics uncovered a truth that the modern world has nearly erased from memory. They understood that silence isn't the absence of power. Silence is where power gets built. While ordinary people fought desperately to be seen, the wisest men in history vanished into discipline, letting their actions speak far louder than any words ever could. So before we continue, ask yourself an uncomfortable question. How much of your life have you spent performing for people who were never going to change their minds about you? Because if that question stirs something in you, stay with me. What follows isn't another motivational pep talk. It's a blueprint for reclaiming the part of yourself the world slowly talked you into giving away. There's a cost almost no one notices until years of it have already vanished. It isn't counted in money, status, or opportunity. It's counted in every unnecessary explanation you've ever offered, every argument you entered hoping to finally be understood, and every moment you handed someone access to a part of you they never earned the right to see. The real tragedy isn't that people misunderstood you. The real tragedy is that you believed they were owed an understanding of you in the first place. Marcus Aurelius ruled the most powerful empire on the planet, yet the thoughts that shaped his character were never written for anyone else to read. He filled page after page of his private journal, knowing no audience would ever see it. While the world expected grand speeches from an emperor, he chose quiet conversations with his own conscience instead. He knew that the strongest part of a man is forged in private, long before the world is ever permitted to witness it. Most people do the opposite. They construct their image in public and their character in private, if they bother building character at all. They explain every decision, defend every choice, and beg for approval at every step. But every explanation you hand out quietly gives someone else a map of your fears, your doubts, and the cracks where your confidence is still thin. The more you reveal, the easier you are to predict. And a predictable mind is a mind that can be steered. Ask yourself something uncomfortable. Think back to the last time you desperately needed someone to see your side of the story. Did their opinion actually shift? Or did you simply walk away drained while they remained exactly the same? This is the lesson the Stoics learned centuries before us. Respect is almost never built through explanation. It's built through quiet, unglamorous consistency. Results speak a language that arguments will never master. Starting today, begin treating your inner world like a fortress instead of an open market. Not everyone has earned access to your struggles. Not everyone has earned your reasons. And nobody deserves an explanation simply because they demanded one. The more carefully you guard your mind, the stronger it grows. Because real power isn't found in convincing people of who you are, it's found in becoming someone who no longer needs to. Epictetus understood this long before he became one of history's great Stoic teachers. He came into the world as a slave, owned by another man, stripped of nearly every freedom a human being can lose. His body could be controlled. His future could be dictated by someone else's whim. But even in chains, he found one place no master could ever touch: the quiet kingdom of his own mind. And once he grasped that, no one ever truly owned him again. Think about how different your life would feel if you defended your mind with that same discipline. Imagine waking up tomorrow with no urge to justify every decision, answer every critic, or convince people who've already decided not to understand you. The world would keep making noise. People would still pass judgment, but their opinions would stop reaching the place where your peace actually lives. The war outside would continue, but the war within would finally be over. There's a reason the strongest people so often appear the calmest. They've learned that every emotional reaction is a negotiation, and every needless explanation is a surrender of leverage. While everyone else scrambles to prove themselves, they simply watch. They listen far more than they speak. They let time reveal what arguments never could. They understand that silence isn't emptiness, it's saturated with control. Musonius Rufus taught his students that a philosopher isn't measured by how beautifully he speaks, but by the quality of the life he actually lives. Anyone can sound wise for a few minutes. Anyone can win an argument through emotion or clever wordplay. But only a disciplined person can live in a way that makes his actions undeniable proof of his character. Long after people forget what you said, they'll remember how you carried yourself when life gave you every excuse to lose control. So from this moment on, stop chasing the impossible goal of being understood by every person you meet. Build a life that requires fewer explanations and stronger actions. Let your discipline speak before your mouth ever gets the chance. Because the people who matter will recognize your character without a single speech. And the people who don't were never going to believe your words anyway. Picture the ocean in the middle of the worst storm you can imagine. On the surface, waves rise like mountains, smashing into each other with enough force to sink ships. Anyone watching from above would swear the whole sea had descended into chaos. But go just a little deeper, and everything shifts. The water turns calm, silent, untouched by the violence happening above it. The storm never reaches that depth. The Stoics spent their lives building that same depth inside themselves. Most people never do. They live only on the surface of their own minds, where every opinion becomes a wave, every insult becomes a hurricane, and every disappointment feels like the end of the world. They spend years trying to calm the storm around them, never realizing that peace was never waiting on the surface. It was always sitting in the depths they were too distracted to explore. Watch the people who are constantly explaining themselves. They defend every decision, justify every mistake, and fight to correct every misunderstanding. And yet they always seem exhausted. The harder they struggle to control what others think, the weaker they become. Because the need to be understood quietly turns into a prison. Every new opinion demands another explanation, and every explanation forges another chain. The Stoics chose a different road. They accepted that people would misread them. They accepted that rumors would spread, criticism would arrive, and judgments would be made without evidence. But instead of burning their lives chasing down every false opinion, they poured that energy into becoming the kind of people whose character would eventually drown out any accusation. Time became their greatest ally, because truth is never in a hurry. Remember this the next time life tempts you to defend yourself. You cannot stop people from inventing stories about you, but you can decide whether you become a prisoner of those stories. The deeper your character grows, the less power the surface noise ever has over you. And one day, without saying a single word, you'll realize the greatest victory was never proving them wrong. It was becoming someone their opinions could no longer touch. Every person who has ever tried to provoke you was hoping for exactly one thing: your reaction. The insult was never the real prize. The argument was never the real prize. The prize was watching you hand over control of your own mind. The instant your emotions start dancing to someone else's rhythm, they no longer need to defeat you. You've already given them the victory they came looking for. Picture a man standing in front of a mirror, hurling stones at his own reflection. The glass cracks, yet he walks away, convinced he's hurt someone else. That is how most people live. They react to every insult, every rumor, every jab, believing they're defending themselves, while the only thing actually being damaged is their own peace. The person who offended them sleeps soundly that night, while they replay the conversation 100 times in their own head. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself of this almost daily. He wrote that another person's actions belong to them, but your response belongs entirely to you. Between what happens and how you react sits a space that no one can enter without your permission. That small space is where freedom lives. Lose it, and you become a prisoner of every careless word a stranger throws your way. Guard it, and no force on earth can truly control you. Think of the strongest person you've ever known. Chances are it wasn't the loudest voice in the room, or the one who always had the perfect comeback ready. Real strength rarely announces itself. It shows up through restraint. It's the person who stays calm while everyone else is unraveling. The one who refuses to trade peace for the fleeting satisfaction of winning an argument that never deserved their attention in the first place. Next time someone invites you into conflict, pause before responding. Ask yourself whether they've earned your attention, or whether they're simply asking you to fund their chaos with your peace. Most battles are won long before the first word is even spoken, and often, the most powerful sentence you'll ever deliver is the one you choose not to say. There's another habit that quietly wrecks more lives than failure ever could. It's the habit of announcing your future before you've earned it. The moment an idea takes root in your mind, you feel the urge to tell someone, a new goal, a business, a dream, a transformation. You talk about it as though the words themselves were progress. For a brief moment, the applause feels like achievement. But once the excitement fades, so does the discipline that was supposed to build the dream. The Stoics warned against this long before the modern world turned attention into a currency. They believed every unnecessary word spent a portion of your inner strength. A seed doesn't break through the soil the day it's planted. It grows in darkness, hidden from the world, until its roots are strong enough to survive the storm. Your ambitions deserve that same protection. The more fragile the beginning, the greater the need for silence. Seneca often reminded his students that a wise person doesn't rush to display what is still unfinished. Character is forged in private, not performed on a stage. While ordinary people crave recognition for who they intend to become, disciplined people disappear into the work itself. They understand that admiration earned too early can become a dangerous distraction, swapping the hunger to improve for the comfort of being praised. Look back at the greatest transformations of your own life. The moments that actually changed you were probably the ones nobody saw. The mornings you woke while everyone else was still asleep. The hard decisions made in silence. The sacrifices that never showed up on social media or became the topic of anyone's conversation. Your greatest victories were born where no applause could reach you. That isn't a coincidence. It's the natural law of mastery. So stop announcing your next chapter before you've actually lived it. Let people underestimate you. Let them assume nothing is changing while you quietly rebuild yourself behind closed doors. Then one day, when your discipline becomes impossible to ignore, you won't need to explain anything. Your results will tell the whole story, and they'll speak with a power that words could never touch. One of the biggest illusions you'll ever face is the belief that everyone deserves access to your mind. They don't. The world praises openness without ever asking whether openness is wise. It pushes you to expose your fears, explain your motives, and lay your deepest struggles bare in front of people who have done nothing to earn that privilege. But every time you hand your inner world to the wrong person, you place your peace into hands never strong enough to protect it. Picture a fortress standing on a mountaintop, built stone by stone across generations. Its gates don't swing open because someone knocked loudly. They open only after trust has been earned. Now compare that fortress to the average mind. Its gates fly open for every opinion, every criticism, every stranger's verdict, and every passing trend. No wonder so many people feel mentally worn out. A fortress can't protect its kingdom if the gates never stay shut long enough to do their job. Epictetus taught that what truly belongs to you isn't your reputation, your possessions, or the opinions people hold about you. The only thing that's genuinely yours is your ability to choose your response and govern your own character. Everything else can vanish in an instant, but a disciplined mind stays untouched unless its owner willingly hands it over. This is why the Stoics guarded their attention more fiercely than kings guarded their treasure, because they knew attention is the foundation every meaningful life is built on. Notice the people who constantly demand explanations from you. Very few are genuinely searching for truth. Most are searching for control. The more they understand your fears, the easier it becomes to manipulate your emotions. They learn exactly which words provoke you, which doubts weaken you, and which insecurities can quietly steer your choices. A wise person spots this early and refuses to leave his private world open for public inspection. Starting today, be far more selective about who gets let into your inner life. Make trust something earned instead of something freely handed out. Protect your thoughts until they harden into convictions. Protect your dreams until they become reality. And protect your peace with the same determination a king uses to protect his kingdom. Because the strongest mind isn't the one that reveals everything. It's the one that knows exactly what must remain hidden. Time has a peculiar way of exposing what words spend years trying to bury. You can convince people for a while. You can craft the perfect image, deliver the flawless explanation, defend yourself with airtight arguments. But time listens to none of it. It watches only one thing, your actions. And in the end, actions write the only story the world actually believes. History remembers Marcus Aurelius, not because he mastered the art of speaking, but because he mastered the far harder art of living. Surrounded by war, betrayal, plague, and crushing responsibility, he never wasted his strength forcing the world to admire him. Day after day, he returned to the only battlefield that mattered, his own mind. He knew that a man who governs himself has already achieved something greater than a man who governs an empire. This is where most people lose their way. They spend years trying to build a reputation before they've built a character. They become obsessed with being respected, admired, and recognized, forgetting that genuine respect can't be requested, negotiated, or demanded. It grows quietly out of thousands of invisible decisions made when nobody is watching. Character is never created under a spotlight. It's forged in solitude, where excuses disappear and only discipline remains. One day, people will form opinions about you whether you help them or not. Some will misread your silence. Others will mistake your kindness for weakness or your confidence for arrogance. Let them. Their conclusions belong to them, not to you. The moment you stop trying to control the stories people tell about you is the moment you become free enough to write your own instead. So stop asking whether the world understands you. Ask whether you understand yourself. Stop measuring your life by applause, approval, or attention. Measure it by the promises you keep when nobody's watching, the discipline you maintain when nobody's cheering, and the peace you refuse to trade for a moment of validation. Because in the end, the strongest people aren't remembered for what they said about themselves. They're remembered for a life that made explanations unnecessary. Now picture yourself 10 years from today. You're standing in front of the person you've become, and only one question remains. Did you spend your life reacting to the world, or did you spend it shaping your own character? That future version of you won't care how many arguments you won, how many people finally admitted you were right, or how often you defended your name. He'll care only about the person those moments slowly turned you into. The Stoics believed every day was a quiet vote for the kind of human being you were becoming. Every needless reaction strengthened impatience. Every moment of restraint strengthened wisdom. Every complaint trained the mind to look for excuses, while every act of discipline trained it to look for responsibility. Character was never built through a single heroic decision. It was built through thousands of invisible choices that no one else would ever notice. Perhaps the greatest victory in life isn't fame, wealth, or influence. It's reaching a point where your peace can no longer be bought with praise or stolen with criticism. Imagine how different your life would feel if another person's opinion no longer had the power to decide your mood. Imagine waking each morning, knowing your confidence no longer depends on applause, agreement, or recognition. That is the freedom the Stoics devoted their lives to pursuing, and it remains just as rare today as it was 2,000 years ago. So from this day forward, stop asking the world for permission to become who you were meant to be. Walk quietly. Build patiently. Let your discipline stay hidden while your character grows stronger in the silence most people fear. There's no need to announce your transformation. The strongest oak in the forest never tells anyone it's growing. It simply keeps reaching deeper into the earth until, one day, its roots become impossible to uproot. And when that day finally comes, you'll understand the lesson Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, and every great Stoic tried to leave behind. The loudest person is rarely the strongest. The one who explains the most is rarely the wisest. True strength belongs to the one who has learned to master himself so completely that the world can no longer pull him away from his own purpose. That is the life of a Stoic. That is the power of silence. And that is the version of yourself that has been waiting for you all along. Before you go, one final truth deserves to stay with you. The world will keep rewarding noise because noise is easy to notice. It will keep celebrating people who speak before they think, react before they understand, and promise more than they'll ever become. But history has never been shaped by the loudest voices. It has always been shaped by the few who mastered themselves while everyone else was busy trying to master each other. If something in this reached a part of you that's been silent for too long, don't let it become another spark of inspiration that fades by tomorrow morning. Choose one lesson. Practice one discipline. Protect 1 hour of your day from needless distraction. Great transformations never start with dramatic changes. They start with one quiet decision, repeated until it becomes your nature. Years from now, people may never know the battles you fought inside your own mind. They'll never see the temptations you resisted, the words you chose not to say, or the reactions you refused to give. They'll simply notice a rare kind of presence about you, a calm confidence that can't be shaken, a discipline that seeks no attention, and a peace that no amount of chaos can steal. They'll call it strength, but you'll know the truth. It was built in silence, one decision at a time. If this message reached you, leave "silence is strength" in the comments below. Not to prove anything to anyone else, but as a promise to yourself that from this day forward, your actions will speak louder than your words. And if you want to keep exploring the timeless wisdom of Stoicism, subscribe to the channel and join us for the next journey. Until then, protect your mind, guard your peace, and remember, the strongest life is always the one that needs the fewest explanations.